In 1848, on this day, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed, ending the Mexican-American War and permanently changing the future of North America. At the time, the United States and Mexico had been at war for nearly 2 years. What began as a border dispute soon turned into a full military conflict, driven by expansion, ambition, and the belief that land meant destiny. American forces pushed deep into Mexican territory, eventually occupying Mexico City itself. Mexico, weakened by internal instability and military losses, was forced to negotiate. The treaty signed on February 2nd did more than end fighting. It transferred an enormous amount of land from Mexico to the United States. Present-day California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and parts of Colorado and Wyoming were handed over in a single agreement. Overnight, the size of the United States expanded by nearly 1/3. For the US, this moment accelerated its rise as a continental power. Access to the Pacific Ocean strengthened trade, military reach, and economic growth. Within a year, gold would be discovered in California, triggering one of the largest migrations in human history and rapidly transforming the global economy. For Mexico, the treaty was a national trauma. It lost more than half of its territory, not because the land was empty, but because power decided ownership. The consequences are still felt today in Mexican politics, identity, and historical memory. But the most overlooked impact fell on the people already living on that land. Thousands of Mexicans suddenly found themselves reclassified as Americans without ever moving. The treaty promised them citizenship, property rights, and legal protection. On paper, their rights were guaranteed. In reality, many lost their land, language rights, and political influence within a generation. This moment explains why borders are never just lines on maps. They cut through families, cultures, and histories. The modern US-Mexico border is not ancient. It is the result of a decision made in a room on February 2nd, 1848. The ripple effects continue today. Immigration debates, border tensions, cultural blending, and political friction all trace back to this treaty. The Spanish language, Mexican traditions, and hybrid identities across the American Southwest exist because borders moved, not people. Globally, the treaty set a precedent. It demonstrated how wars could redraw nations without consulting those who lived on the land. It reinforced a 19th century world order where power determined geography, a pattern repeated across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East during the same era. Yet, there is another side to this history. The regions gained through the treaty became some of the most diverse, innovative, and economically influential places on Earth. Out of conflict came cultural fusion, resilience, and new identities that could not be erased. February 2nd reminds us that history does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it signs a document, redraws a map, and waits generations for its consequences to fully appear. Why do we learn history every day? Because today's arguments about borders, identity, and belonging are not new. They are echoes of decisions made long before we were born. Understanding February 2nd teaches us that borders can change overnight, but the human impact lasts forever. When we study history daily, we learn how to avoid repeating the same mistakes with new names. History is not old. History is living inside us. One day, one event, one lesson. Mr. Fidi.